They lurk everywhere, the dangers in the garden, especially where you least expect them. Here too in the idyll on the banks of the Elbe, in the picturesque village of Rogetz, and especially when nature comes to life. Next door in her garden, Andrea Motzkau's health issue began last year, which almost ended with the worst possible outcome. It all starts with gardening. Quite harmless, actually.
It was similar to here, where I pulled out some weeds from the ground with gloves, but they were already a bit porous at the front, and I didn't realize that some dirt got in. And during the night, I did notice that the tip of my finger hurt, and I took a painkiller, which helped at the moment. And then I worked another day just as usual, but by the evening it got worse, and then the whole finger became swollen.
At night, the pain becomes unbearable. Andrea goes to the emergency room. However, due to other emergencies, the doctor only has time for her in the early morning.
I felt nauseous, I had chills, my arm was already hurting, and then I looked. Then, of course, that famous line was already running up my arm, which people commonly say the blood poisoning. At that time, I couldn't move the finger anymore. It was already quite deformed, and the doctor looked at it and said I should go to hand surgery. I got in right away. The next operation was mine.
The finger is opened with a zigzag incision, and all infected tissue is removed. She will be monitored inpatient for 1 week to ensure that the danger is truly eliminated. Florian Struber is a hand surgeon and operated on Mrs. Motzkau.
In Mrs. Motzkau's case, it was finger phlegmon. Phlegmon with a relatively classic pathogen that is often found in soil, the so-called Streptococcus pyogenes germ. This is a bacterium that occurs in soil and can cause severe soft tissue infections, especially when it gets under the skin and spreads there without coming into contact with oxygen.
Besides phlegmon, that is the soft tissue infection, soil bacteria can also cause tetanus, gas gangrene, and much more. Garden soil is full of pathogens. They can enter through the smallest injuries. If the bacteria spread further, it can lead to blood poisoning, life-threatening.
As a first tip, I always like to tell my patients to take the small warning signs seriously. In other words, if after gardening in the evening I somehow notice something is different than usual, I have pain somewhere on the finger, on the hand where I was working, something is red, or there's that famous red streak going up the arm, we doctors speak from a so-called lymphangitis, that is an inflammation of the lymphatic vessels, then I should take the whole thing very seriously and ideally consult a doctor as soon as possible.
During Andrea's surgery, a lot of tissue had to be removed because the germs had already worked their way inward from the fingertip to the tendons. The follow-up examination is meant to show what remains after her garden injury. She still cannot fully close her right fist.
And we must note that a bit of sensitivity, in other words, the finger's sensation, has also been lost. However, these are both things that we can further improve with additional physical and occupational therapy.
That will be done.
Ms. Moska, if you have no more questions, then I wish you all the best.
I wish you the same. Stay healthy.
In general, the doctor advises everyone to protect themselves as best as possible against infections while gardening.
First, always wear gloves after working in the garden, wash your hands well, and if possible, also change your clothes.
Cool. I walked around, touched it, and then pulled it away. And it got caught somewhere and started right up. Well, that was it.
The tendons in the index finger are severed. The middle finger has a deep flesh wound. Fortunately, the tendons can be reconnected. To keep it mobile during healing, Thorsten Franke must wear a special hand splint for many weeks.
That was stupidity. One could have unplugged it beforehand.
Unfortunately, his finger will no longer be able to extend.
That's the maximum. It doesn't go further. Not even with force.
So, for cutting tools like hedge trimmers, the rule is both hands behind the handguard. Do not hold with one hand in front and cut with the other. Hedge trimmers are not made for that. nor for lawnmowers. Do not try to clear the cutting deck with your hand while the engine is running.
And if a finger does get severed, what to do to ensure it can be reattached?
Briefly overcome the shyness. Take the finger, wrap it in a moist, clean towel. If you have a cold pack to place it on, that's good. Otherwise, call an ambulance. They have special replantation bags, amputation bags, where it can be adequately transported.
For Andrea Motzkau, high-quality gloves have become a must. And since last year, she has also become much more cautious.
If I get a little hurt now, I do check, well, how is it? So I'm a bit cautious if something happens, yes. The garden and the flowers just mean way too much to me to give them up.